Welcome everyone to Chapter 1 of CSE 3200 Yukon Stores. We are going to be spending the chapter building our first Android application. Here are the objectives for Chapter 1. I'm going to show you around the Android Studio and emulator in this video. They will then lay out the user interface in a separate video. And finally, in our third and final video for the chapter, we'll wire up our views and make toast. Sound delicious? Well, here we go. All right, so I'll be showing you this live, but this screen will live in a place where you'll be able to see it online. But if you've worked with any IDE, this should be pretty familiar. You're going to go to File, New, and New Project, and for every project that we start in this class, we're going to be using the empty project. Now, our first app is going to be called GeoQuiz. You might see on my screens a slightly different number because I have different versions. I delete it and I do it again. So mine might say GeoQuiz 1_1 or GeoQuiz 2, but we're going to start with GeoQuiz. Under package name, we have reverse DNS notation here. It goes com.bignerdranch.android.geoquiz. It's not hugely important for what we're going to be doing right now, but I'm going to keep it consistent with our textbook so that if you're following along there, it's the same as it is here. For the save location, well, that'll be specific to your computer. Whatever the default is probably going to be fine. When you start typing over the name GeoQuiz, if you wanted to fix that, it would start changing package name and save location dynamically. So whenever you set up your Android Studio, which I am not going to lead you through, but you should be doing that before starting. Setting up Android Studio, I believe, is before Chapter 1 in the book, but I'm sure you've had to set up many different IDEs and programs throughout your education, so that should probably not be a problem for you. I would also then go immediately to the last section of the chapter where you're going to set up your emulator. I've already set up mine, and I'm not going to take the time here to show you. There's a lot of downtime as it sets up. Our language is going to be Kotlin. Your choices are Kotlin and Java, but we are going to be using Kotlin, which I will explain in class. The minimum SDK. Now when this loads up, it probably says API 21. You want to set it to API 24, and that is that's probably something we're going to use throughout the chapter. That is going to allow us as much backward compatibility as we can get while also still using some of the more modern features, such as, let's see, graphics that we want. All right, so let me skip out of here and go into my editor. Now I'm going to show you around the editor in a space where I've already got the entirety of Chapter 1 programmed, but I'll end up deleting it and doing it all in front of you and explaining it all. But components over here. So we have the project window. When you start, you don't get the resource manager, and I don't recall ever putting the resource manager in there myself, but it probably just comes in automatically as you start to put some content into your project. So we could toggle the project window by clicking here. That just is going to make this window come over and hide it fully. As you can see, you can scroll or change the size of your windows like so. This is your emulator on the right, which you're going to set up. And on this version of the computer, I am using what the book suggested, a Pixel 4. Some of the screenshots you'll see, I had set up an emulator on another computer before picking this book, and I chose a Galaxy. Now, strangely, a lot of the materials that I find, they use the Pixel 4. I'm not sure why. I've never owned a Pixel. Okay, so let's see. When you start your project, you're going to have a main activity.kt. The .kt is for Kotlin. You're going to have activity main.xml. the strings.xml will not be showing. So I'm going to just get rid of all these things just to show you where they live. I am going to put this back so that everything is collapsed. All right, so this might be the view you would see when you open that up, and the emulator might be gone too. So I just hit it. I can bring the emulator back by using this tab here, or I can hide it here. So a couple of different options. All right, so this is your default Android window. You can switch to the project window. So if you use like, let's see, NetBeans or Eclipse or some other IDE like that, and this might look a little bit more familiar, but we're going to be using the Android window. It hides some things, and that's probably a good thing. So let's take a look at these folders over here. RES stands for resource. The things that say generated next to it, you are not allowed to touch those things. Notice that we have two files here called Java, which may be a little bit curious since we selected Kotlin as a language. Kotlin and Java are interoperable, which means you can interpret one directly into the other. If it would bother you, you could set this folder up so it says Kotlin, but that's just extra work. So it says Java, but it really is holding Kotlin code for us. So when we drill down through the Java, we see our package names, and two of them have some extra writing in gray to the side, Android test and test. We might be using those in chapters, I think, 5 and 6. However, I'm considering you might be on your own for those two chapters. If you drill down under the first option, you will see main activity. That's where main activity lives, under Java and then our package name. And if we want to put any more classes in here, that's where we're going to do it. For the string.xml, that's under resources, and then go to layout. And there it is, activity underscore main.xml. Okay, so under this window here, and it's got a lot of content in there, I will delete it, I will start over, I'll explain it, but just want to show you around the editor while there's something there. So up here you're going to find code, split, and design, and it's currently set to code. If I go to design view, then I get a preview here, and I get a blueprint here. The blueprint does show a little bit of extra things like white space could be useful. Attributes, there are none currently because of the setups that we have. Because we deleted constraint view, we don't have any attributes over here. We have a palette of widgets or views. If I use the word widget, that's because I'm used to it, but the book has chosen to go with views most of the time instead of the word widget. Anyhow, we are probably not going to be using this palette, but it is a good drag and drop type option. So I'm not going to be using this screen too much. Sometimes I might want to see my code along with a preview, so I could use split, but a lot of times I don't want that at all, and I'm just going to have code selected. Other things, this right here is going to be stuck on app until we get around to playing with some of our debuggers. By the way, the debugger is here. This is a profile which we won't be using in class, but if you run that, what it's going to do is it's going to show you a bunch of metrics about how much different usages your app is taking up. So if you're putting some product out there and you just want to see how it's running, or you might have problems with how fast it's running, you might use that. But we're not going to be using that in this class. This is going to stop our application. This is going to run our application. I'm sure you have many editors. There's lots of ways to do that with maybe not just shortcuts up here, but you can go through the menus and do similar things. Down here you have your console. If I can get that to light up. Evidently I can't. But if something is going wrong or you want to check something as it's running, you could be searching through here. All right, so that's our way around the editor. You're going to learn it more by actually following along the videos, but you're going to learn it the most by working yourself through the book, which, by the way, we are going to be going through the book pretty much chapter by chapter, page by page, and taking their examples and coding them in. That's what I'll be doing in class. I may have to skip around, may have to use the videos right here as resources to kind of speed things up for the things we can't do in an hour-long lecture. But that is going to help us to be able to see code that's going to work and give us some ideas for things that we might continue to do with the code to expand our knowledge. All right, so when we come back, we're going to move on to our second objective.